Meditation is like a medicine. So, why we think of a medicine? Because we have a disease. So, when we do not have a problem or pain, then no medicine is required. It has two parts. I am aware of a disease and I'm not aware of a disease. I'm not aware of a disease. No medicine is required, but I have a disease. So, but I have a disease in the, whether it is in the mind or it is in the body. Now, I'm not aware of a disease, but the disease is there. That answers your question that we are not able to respond to the situation, to anything outside in the world. It's very interesting uh, question you raised, and you contemplated and reflected, and it is good to go little deeper. Uh, Let me make a summarized statement. Attachment causes dependency. Detachment causes jealousy, anger, greed, or hatred. And the delusion causes total inertness. It puts the mind into tamoguna. So I'm not able to see and respond. So let us open this knowledge and understanding. So we started with I am not aware that I have a disease, and I'm aware that I have a disease. So the moment I find that I have a sickness, then mind starts searching for medicine. But if I'm not aware, I have a disease, and that disease lives in the background, and these diseases are pain, pleasure, clinging to pain and pleasure, sorrow and happiness, reaction, raga and dvesha, attachment and detachment. They are living much deeper level we don't recognize. But what is meditation? Meditation is a natural state. And if it is a natural state, and it is not mind is not responding from the natural state, so now we realize that we need a medicine. Patanjali says that these diseases are fivefold: lack of awareness of reality, avidya; attachment, detachment, and avidya, asmita; rag, dvesh, abhinivesh, pancha klesha, the fivefold suffering. But the main cause is lack of awareness of reality, avidya. So mind is in avidya, lives with rag, dvesh, and pride and delusion. It has become such a deep habit of the mind that the mind says this is normal. Mind says this is normal. Hence, the mind returns to its old habit of instinctive, of habitual, of impulsive. So, two things are required. First, viveka and abhyasa. You see, Patanjali says, Abhyas Vairagya Abhyam Tannirodha. So, Viveka, if the Viveka is there, it will lead to practice. If practice is there, it will awaken Viveka. So, both are complementing each other. One more part. What is that part? That when we see the delusion, we have understood that delusion, and that delusion is also dukkha. The pain and the suffering is also delusion. Can I realize it? My distraction is also delusion. Why? Because there is a lack of awareness of reality. And delusion must have two elements, raga and dvesha. And raga and dvesha must come from a desire. And the desire means seeking something outside myself. So, why I am seeking something outside? There is a sense of incompleteness, and the sense of incompleteness leads to avidya, lack of awareness of reality. So, now once we understand this entire circle, then what is meaning? Then what we should do? So, treatment begins with the purity of the mind. So once there is a purity of the mind, the ego sense drops, and when ego sense drops, the experience of that pain which is coming from the ego sense also drops. So, how to drop that ego sense? Meditation. Without purity of the mind, the knowledge will not take place. For knowledge, one cannot purify the mind. So, it means the practice and viveka, regular practice and the viveka. Now see the scenario. In my childhood, I still remember my mother used to love me, and I was playing, and my big toes was hurt, and the blood was coming, but my mind was totally busy in play. Once I returned, my mother saw my toe, and it is bleeding. Oh, he said, what happened? She said, because she always loved among the three brothers. So she sat down and she said, no, you don't take care. And the moment my mother told me that you see that you heard the blood is coming, I start feeling the pain in the toe. You see that I'm aware of a disease and I'm not aware of a disease. So, what our master says that now you are aware of a disease, Viveka is required. And what is the practice required? So, mother put some medicine all around and she wrapped it with the cloth. uh, and ultimately, so both uh, Viveka and the practice both are necessary in the journey. Both are necessary. So, what we studied, if we recap in the first four steps, self and the not self. So you see that? See that? Yes, I understood real self and the not self. But what happens? There comes a big delusion. I understood self and the not self. I understood that self is Satchidanand. I understood that self is absolute existence, consciousness, and bliss. Okay. So, who understands? Mind and the intellect. Very good. Now ask the intellect, are you talking about that you have understood? Are you pure consciousness, not the body? Or you are consciousness with the body? And if you are with the body, then you are in not self. For all practical purposes, we have couple of options. Am I talking of Satchidanand as pure consciousness? Am I talking of Satchidanand with the body? So I have included the matter. Very thin line of awareness. And the moment I added the body into that Satchidananda, means what? Mind says react, and then result is I am not reacting as fast as I should have been. So the mind enters into, or the intellect enters into a delusion that yes, I am in a meditative state, but with the body, not without the body. So that is the answer of your question. So how to get rid of this ignorance which is so deep rooted? That is why Shankara has created these 40 steps. Raga, attachment. When I identify myself with any skill set, anything in the world, it creates a dependence. We depend on this Google Hangout now to listen and to speak. See that? So, dependence in the world is always there. But am I free from that dependence? Then attachment will not be there. Is it possible? Yes, I go to the restroom and come out of it. So there is a sense of independence from the restroom, not attached. No, I like only this food. I like only this way. And so there are millions and millions of impressions that causes the attachment. We need to remove it day by day, moment to moment. If we don't remove, that dependence leads us to avidya, ignorance, and similarly the dvesha, detachment. So the mind detaches, but it keeps its relationship either in the form of a jealousy or in the form of some trigger in the mind. So that causes the duality in the mind, raga and dvesha. So when we have raga and dvesha, they both are working together. That leads to a kind of delusion. I have detached myself from everything and still I'm attached at a subtler level. What causes that? That is what we are. We have understood the vasana, the swadharma. Did I take up that swadharma?
Yeah.
Yes, swadharma, vasanas, my previous birth is, their impressions are still working. So I fall back into the delusion. So that delusion is nothing but foolishness of the mind. That foolishness of the mind overlaps the intellect and the manisha is lost. Very subtle, smaller things. So now go slowly. We have understood with the clarity and the manisha. Even sometime the intellect does not reach to that state of purity so that it mixes the self and the non self during our daily activities. Our daily activities, we wake up in the morning. In the morning today, I woke up. You see how to get rid of this. There are many, millions, thousands of ways, methods were created. So I was lying down on the bed, waking state was there. Then I saw the right leg and I said, now right leg is separate from my body, at least 5 feet away. Just imagination. Mind always imagines. Then my left leg is also separate from the body. Right arm, left arm, head. And now I see my body has been separate or divided or cut into 6, 7 parts. So what happened to the mind now? Mind left the dependency. Then I joined together. It's all imagination. It's all imagination. What a big deal. So then I joined them together. Then then I told my mind, now you can move the body and you can sit up. So what happens? The mind remains detached with the body, even working through the body remains detached. So, like this, we have hundreds of steps and practices. So, self and the non self. The second part, we have to raise our awareness of the nitya and the naimitya karma. Internally, you ask the intellect to think of it. Now I'm going to work this and then become aware there is no element of desire and there is no element of ego sense. I have to do it for the sake of doing. At the third step also. What is the third step? That I am not the doer, I am not the enjoyer. You see that? I am not the doer, I am not the enjoyer. So you do it. We can talk a little bit about this doer and the enjoyer before we go deeper. And the fourth one, now I start realizing how the desire and the ego sense causes the suffering in my mind. I I miss a lot of actions and the thoughts are dictated by these desires. So ultimately, I have to free myself from these desires. Going back to what we uh, understand the enjoyer and the doer. We'll go deeply uh, in future, but first, understand if I map, mapping, we map. So mapping sense organs. See that mapping. Sense organs saw you through my eyes and heard you before the talk began. Okay. So you are the object. Sense organs saw it. So the desire springs in the mind. Okay. Desire. Then you have attachment and detachment. Mapping. Attachment and detachment. Then we have delusion. After the delusion, I become the listener, you become the speaker, enjoyer and the doer. But mind forgets where is the doer. If I am the body, then I am the doer. If I am the sense organ, then I am the doer, then I am the speaker. But I am not. I am not. Because it's a body, it's lips, it's a tongue, it's a throat. They all together creates a speaker, but there is no speaker. There is no listener. Instantly, the next moment, you lose your awareness and you become the speaker. When you are the speaker and you don't like, the listener doesn't like, then the speaker in the background keeps the ego sense and the entire journey is destroyed. With a simple thing. With a simple thing. So the master have found out a way, all knowledge coming from the tradition. You learn from the teacher. So similarly, you have to pass on this knowledge to the others without being a doer and without being an enjoyer. Second solution, our masters have found out when you are expressing speaker as a speaker, then express this knowledge of the Eastern wisdom. Simply express it without binding yourself as a speaker or as a teacher. Third, they found out outside you are acting as a teacher, as a play and a fun. Inside you are not a teacher. Teacher is only one, that is the real self. Fourth solution, we found out that the teacher is a replica of the real self of the seeker. Seeker, when the seeker looks at the teacher, that seeker is looking at its own real self. So that is why the master answers the seeker. The master never answers the question coming from the mind. You see that? So, looking at these things, smaller things, but can I become aware of it? So, I went to the restroom and then I said, this is all imagination. Then I was taking a shower. I said, this is all imagination. In delusion, I am taking a bath because the mind feels that it is real thing. So I introduced to the mind that this is all imagination because I am not the body who is taking a shower. There we create a doer. Then I was brushing the teeth. I was imagining, okay, this is also imagination. What is imagination? That does not have any substance. Huh? That appears true, but it is not. Mirage. What happened to the body? The body became totally rested, calm, full of energy, because you removed that delusion of being a doer and the enjoyer, and the prana became free from the diktat of the mind. And then what happened? The prana started flowing into the body, and your experience in the body was full of energy, calmness, and relaxation. But again, then you realize you are not the body. You continue that moment, you will find out that the body remains full of energy throughout the day. Entire journey now, entire journey has one uh, caveat, and that caveat is all about the sins. That is our fifth step. How to remove these, destroy these sins from our day to day life. Huh? That is, learn how to destroy the sins and purify the mind through the karma. So that is our fifth step. So I brought you back to the same journey of the fifth step. Remember again, recollect again the mapping. I see something, I feel something, I sense something, I touch something. So, whatever I touch, feel, sense, it is an object, and that object plus I sense is a thought in the mind. We understood that. Thought is nothing but object plus I-ness. So now I have a thought. Now something triggers behind the mind about that thought. So that trigger comes from the vasanas. What is the meaning of the vasanas and the impression? Vasana means that dwells, that sits in the mind at a deeper level. So, morning, yes, it is morning. Taken a shower, yes, taken a shower. Meditation is done, done. Mind says now is the time to take a cup of tea. Vasana. You have done all the thing, and now you are sitting. Mind says what I did yesterday was not good. Thought, vasana, past impression. So vasana triggers this mind all the time. Behind every thought, feeling, sensation. You see that? Now it's 9. Your time, fixed time. So let us start. Connect. Let us start our sadhana. So there are good vasanas and there are bad vasanas. There is a good vasana. That is why we are connected. And there is a bad vasana that also connects us to the world. Now, take for example how the mind becomes so free. I was talking about this imagination. You start seeing the entire world as a figment of imagination. I'm sitting in the room, imagination. The way the mind tells me the story coming from the vasana, I tell the mind that this is all imagination. So, what is going to happen? Imagination or dream, they stays for a minute and they leave you. I have a pain. Now I am attached to the pain in the body. This is also imagination. It does not mean that you don't take care. You take care in imagination also. This is one of the most wonderful way to get rid of and to give a break to the vasana, to give a break to the attachment, to give a break to the detachment, to give a break to the delusion. When I see you, that is also a delusion because we both are essentially one. So, enjoyer is also a delusion, the speaker is also a delusion. So, once the mind lives in such a freedom, imagination came and gone. After 1 hour, you will be busy in your stuff and I'll be busy in my stuff. You see the point? Can I live into that? So I can give a break to the vasanas, the sanskaras that triggers from behind, creates a thought, and thought prompts me to act or react or to do whatever we are doing. It creates a doer and the enjoyer. So you rightly said that Manisha, I missed that state of intellect, which is Manisha, and then I become the enjoyer and the doer. So that is why our master says Viveka and Vairagya both are required at every step living our life. So that is why the first four steps are the foundations of a knowledge oriented life. It creates a Manisha. It develops a Manisha in the intellect. First four steps, if you look clearly, if you see them clearly. And the second stage comes when we live a householder life. Now we reflect. After doing Nitya and the Naimitya karma, not doing Kamya karma, and we are clear about the self and the non self. Now we see I'm not the doer and the enjoyer, only existence is. And I see the main culprit is the desire and the ego sense, so all the four steps. Now, when I am aware and know that these causes the suffering, I am very much aware not to live a pleasure oriented life. Pleasure oriented life as a family person, as a professional person, as a social person. This Sunday, I went to doctor's couple is there who also immigrated to US from my native state. So we communicate in our own language. We have more than 2,000 languages, dialects in India. So the moment I entered into his house, he has a beautiful big house. So my mind said, your house is smaller, his house is bigger. Now see that. See that. So I told my mind, let us imagine you have a bigger house than his. So they are very soft spoken people and they invited us for a lunch. And they did not care to show us their house. It is not required. That thought came to my mind. I said, I also do the same thing, another imagination. So I kept saying to the mind, okay, I love you. You are imagining. So your house is in imagination, his house is in imagination, and everything is imagination. Let me throw both of them, and the mind became clear. So in everyday life, this is going to happen. But we have to separate these sins. When I become the enjoyer, I am a sinner. When I become the doer, I am a sinner. When I am craving something, I become a sinner. Another way to understand. We have already passed from that understanding to harm someone is a sin. We are not talking of that. Now we are going little deeper. I am an enjoyer, I am a sinner. I am the less I take delight, I take pleasure in becoming a speaker. That is also I'm accumulating the sin. I am earning more money than others, that is also a sin. So that ego sense, we keep aside that ego sense. So this fifth step, it says how to destroy these sins from our life, and nothing happens. You see that nothing harm happens. How can I earn money if I get rid of this idea? This idea, how to get rid of this idea? that the mind is too much attached to power, pleasure, and possessions. That is why the mind is saying, if I am not the enjoyer and the doer, then how can I earn money? So that enjoyer is a creation of the series of the factors, the objects, sense organs, desire, attachment, detachment, and then delusion, and then the enjoyer and the doer. And behind that enjoyer and the doer, we lose viveka and we forget that it is the body that does the work, that moves to the places. It is the intellect that creates the project. It is the mind that speaks out and performs different activities. And then there is an exchange in the world. I do something, in that exchange, I receive the money. There is no need to be a doer and the enjoyer. And then you enjoy that life. Now you are no more sinner, you are no more the doer and the enjoyer, and the life becomes easy every day, every moment. Another perspective, this is also imagination. I imagine that I'm a speaker, uh, and I made you a listener, and after an hour, the journey will end. No speaker, no listener, they are thrown out. So we don't allow the mind to trigger me from those vasanas, from those sanskaras. I loosen the knot. You see that I loosen, when you loosen the knot, you are free. You are free. So that is the essence of the fifth step. So you see that ashraya, we have four ashram. We talk of four ashram. Huh? We say brahmacharya ashram. So first four steps belongs to the brahmacharya ashram. Brahmacharya, that how I ask my mind and the intellect to move, live and work in that real self. So we laid a foundation. See, the other side of it is very important. What is the other side? I have realized I have understood what is self and the non self. So now I have started living in the self rather than not self. See that second one? I have started doing kamya karma and no, nitya karma and the naimitya karma. It means it is duty, it is responsibility. I need to do it. So mind is free. Mind is free. I have to go to the office because I have to work. That is nitya karma. I'm not thinking how much money, and I do not uh, attach myself with the ego sense. So what happens? I'm keeping that mind, the state free. So the first four steps, if you contemplate, reflect on those four steps, you will realize that first four step lays the foundation, a strong foundation. So that should continue throughout our life. Then we have to remove this sense that triggers the mind to be habitual, to be instinctive, to be impulsive. So we need an inner orientation. So, because of the four steps, we have understood what is viveka, what is vairagya, what is discernment, what is dispassion, and with that powerful tool, now I hammer on the vasana in my daily life. Now I become nearer, come closer to my family life, to my personal and professional life. I figure out where the vasanas are acting on me, where the vasanas leads my life, and where I have to give a break. So when you start thinking in this way, you enter into manisha. This is the way. So we enter into manisha with a particular situation, with a particular thought, with a particular uh, work. Manisha is a state of awareness or a knowledge that separates the self from the non self, that separates the delusion, that separates the attachment and detachment. So now you have a situation and you enter into that manisha. If I have an idea of an ego sense, then what will happen? I must win. I have not to lose. I have a desire. I am seeking the fruit. I have already understood in the first four steps. I should not continue this. So, this is the work should be done with creativity, with energy, with awareness, with in peace and happiness. That is all. Karma by default is defective. Did you understand? I am repeating. Karma by default is defective. Why it is defective? It gives you the option. You perform a particular karma, success or failure, pain or pleasure, profit or loss, victory and defeat. It is already attached to it. So why should I claim that I am the doer? So when I'm not the doer and the enjoyer, victory, defeat does not mean anything to me. I will continue to work. Profit and loss does not mean anything to me. Pain and pleasure does not mean anything to me. It does not mean pleasure I enjoy, I accept not as a doer and the enjoyer. Pain, I become aware and I take the right course. So what is happening? I think you are picking up the deeper inside the mind from where action is triggered by the vasana. I am not helping and giving energy to those vasanas to create, to accumulate more impressions. So when that happens, the mind lives in the sense of freedom. I've seen that in my life that sometime I see that the whole week passes where as if I don't feel. I have seen that in my life that sometime I see that the whole week passes where as if I don't feel body is there or not. I- Because why? Now see that the body remains at the higher state of rest and relaxation, calmness. Why? Because the mind is not entering unconsciously, habitually into the body. Why? Because that habit and impulsive and the instinctive reaction from the mind into the body causes lot of problem in the body. It only causes the fatigue and the tiredness. So it's not a big deal that if I sleep for 4 to 5 hours, it's not a big deal. When you keep the mind into that state, it happens. It happens. Second part is also very important. The body identification is lost, and when that is lost, there is no doer and the enjoyer. You see, all are very subtle, at a subtler level, are connected to each other, all these concepts and principles. Why the Patanjali says steadiness in the body? So that the mind could not enter unconsciously, habitually into the body. So that the mind can focus on the object of meditation. So all these are at a very subtler level are linked and related to each other. So the sin, when we talk of the sin and the sinner, that is what we have understood before. It is the law of karma, cause and effect relationship. So there comes the karma, the dharma, and the swadharma. One is karma, cause and effect relationship. Dharma is my real nature, and Swadharma is made up of all the vasanas. Now relate it, play with the three. I lay my essential nature, that is my real self, and under that there is a Swadharma. Swadharma is made up of all the vasanas and the impressions coming from the previous birth need to be exhausted. How it needs to be exhausted? By the karma. Now the karma is nothing but the cause and effect relationship. So what should I introduce in between to live a life of peace and happiness? Now see that. So foundation are four. So in order to exhaust the karma in a way so that I do not accumulate more karmas, nitya and naimitya karma. See that. That is how they are related to each other. The third one, no doer and the enjoyer. So I maintain my awareness. When you become the doer only when you have a desire. You become the enjoyer only when you have a desire. Do you see that? There is no way we become enjoyer and doer without any desire. And desire is the sense of incompleteness. But the real self is complete. So I bring my mind back to the real self. Come on, you are complete, you are whole, and now you have to do this work. Let me do this work for the sake of doing the work, and then I do not accumulate any karma. So, one thing, I do not accumulate karma, and I do not give energy to the sins. Sin is doing any action as a doer and enjoyer. Sin is kamya karma. Sin is owning responsibility of doing all the karma. So you see, yeah. So today's talk, I focused on that part. So what happens now? You find a situation. This is what I have to do. So normally we do work instinctively, habitually, subconsciously. You allow that work to be done consciously with viveka and vairagya. Manisha is there. The moment you are doing the work with the viveka and vairagya, the manisha is there. Every activity that you are doing, the manisha is there. So whether it is a negative thought, Manisha is there. I have to do now. See that another part of this journey. Huh? So when the mind starts playing with these subtle principles inside your head, you are already started working with the Manisha. And when you now what happens? There are two parts. First part is that yes, I started working with Viveka and Vairagya. I understand the real self and not self. But one option, you will recall, I am reminding you. So the moment you are working with the Viveka and the Vairagya, Shreyas takes birth in your mind. Shreyas takes birth in your mind, provided the mind is not dictating you. If the mind is dictating you, the prayers will take birth. You see, everything is happening in one go. Everything is happening inside you. What it means? It means so simple thing. You see a beautiful woman, Viveka or Vairagya is there, but the mind says, I should opt for prayers. So the moment you are opting for prayers means pleasure seeking, what I like, what is pleasant. What I like is attachment. You become the doer. You want to grab, you want to come near. Now put Shreyas into it. Okay, she looks like a goddess Lakshmi. She looks like a goddess Saraswati. That is why we have created so many gods and goddesses. After all, the mind has created an imagination seeing a beautiful woman. So the master says, create another imagination, goddess Lakshmi. What I'm doing? I'm triggering the mind. Mind, are you ready to play with me? Yes, let us create an imagination. So what I'm doing? I'm asking the mind to move to the Shreyas. Viveka comes. Viveka comes. Viragya comes. Manisha is there. So the sin is gone now. Sin was there. So we need not to confess going to the church or the temple, oh, I have committed lot of sins. You will make God crazy. Every day you commit hundred of sins. How many confessions you have to do? You see that? So what is nothing? It is all about. Now go little deeper. You see, again, go little deeper. We have to connect all the dots. If you do not connect all the dots, that is what Manisha is. So now go little deeper. We discussed about Shreyas and Prayas. Yes, Shreyas and Prayas. Yes. That is what we discussed. Now go little deeper. That appears very outward, but that is deeper. Shreyas mind moves with the Shreyas only when there is a Satoguna. Now see that. Do you see that? What is right and good, that is a knowledge. I know that knowledge only when the mind lives in Satoguna. Satoguna, quality of Satoguna is the knowledge and joy. So everything settles there. One dot, second dot, third dot. So when all the dots are there, you are already in Manisha. Why do you say that you are not in Manisha? You have to create it. No, you have to remember. Oh, Manisha. And so you see that? Satoguna takes us to the knowledge and the joy. And knowledge and the joy is the path of the Shreyas, because Shreyas helps me to find out what is right and good. Now see that. Right and good. Now that intellect is inspired. Now the intellect is pure and simple. There is 100% clarity that this is all imagination, what I desired just before. So the intellect shows you the path, that Manisha shows you the path. Okay, dependence? No. Jealousy? No. Delusion? No. So, does the intellect fight with it? No. It knows the reality. It is casual, it is normal, it is natural. Then what happens? At that moment, the all the sins are destroyed. There is no sin in that state. So you live into virtues, huh, which is supported by the knowledge and the joy. Knowledge and the joy at every moment in life. There is another, because we have accumulated trillions of impressions of those vasanas, triggers again, Manisha is there. Sometime, definitely in the beginning, by regular practice, these vasanas dominate and dictate our life. No worries. Return again. You realize, contemplate, reflect on it, practice, so that you increase the resources. Pressure of the Vasana. Now pressure is here, resources are lower. Now you bring it a balance and then you increase the resources that helps you to absorb into a meditative state as long as you wish. The pressure will remain there. It does not mean it takes time. To remove and destroy the total vasanas means awakening. It means realization that no delusion is left. What is left is only real self. So those vasanas now becomes an opportunity for you to do the sadhana. At present, they are obstacle. Gradually, you bring it at par resources and the pressure. Then your Manisha says, I'm able to meet any problem. Now the pressure is down, resources are more, and now you see any vasana, come, please come, so that I can progress deeper, I can progress further. So that Manisha needs to be understood in the context of the first four steps, including Viveka Vairagya, including calmness and relaxation, with reference to attachment and detachment and the delusion. And our life is full of those things in the beginning of the sadhana. And so we have a greater opportunity to live into that state.